Hey everyone, welcome back to another video, and today we are finally going to be talking about the whole Milo Yiannopoulos thing and his recent claims that he has become ex-gay and how he's now promoting conversion therapy and trying to push that on others. There's also claims that apparently he's trying to open up this conversional therapy centre of his own, which is a whole other problem. So we're just going to be kind of talking through this and talking about what's happened and what it means and everything in today's video. There is absolutely so much to unpack here, and it's an absolutely ridiculous, harmful mess of a story, but I think it's worth talking about because you know me, I'm all about trying to combat harmful narratives and kind of talking about them and trying to understand where people are coming from, but at the same time correcting misinformation or harmful behaviour and actions and all that kind of thing. Also, now I'm seeing my makeup on that tiny little camera screen in front of me, I can't help but feel like I look like a clown. I'm having all of the regrets today. So let's talk about Milo and this whole situation, because the absolutely cynical but fairly rational person in me wants to say that this guy is clearly just trolling, right? This is kind of what he does. He's a professional troll. He tries to get people riled up and worked up and calls himself an activist, but whatever. I'd like to think that he's just doing this whole thing as some publicity stunt, and the fact that his partner's still living with him suggests to me that it is all a bit of a cash grab rather than something he actually believes and actions he's actually changing or trying to alter or whatever. However, even if this is the case, he's still presenting this whole thing as being true and something he's actually doing and something he actually wants other people to do. He's still pushing other people into conversion therapy or encouraging people to push other people into conversion therapy and claiming that it works, which is disgustingly harmful, as we'll discuss a bit later in this video. So whether he actually believes this stuff or not, whether he actually thinks he's ex-gay or not, doesn't really matter here, because the fact is he's pushing it as truth, and there are so many people out there who are going to believe him, who are going to take it as fact, who are going to trust his opinion and try and go through the same thing or try and force family members through the same thing. And so whether Milo believes it or not isn't really important. What's important is that the harmful outcome is going to be the same whether he does or not. So that's what's worth bearing in mind as we go forward in this video and talk about this topic. So if you're not familiar with this whole story, let's kind of go over some of the details. I'll talk a little bit about what news articles have been put out there and stuff, and we'll just kind of go through it step by step. So, to quote one news article, far-right commentator Milo Yiannopoulos has given an interview in which he claims to be ex-gay and has chosen to demote his husband to a housemate. In the original interview, he said about this, "When I used to kid that I only became gay to torment my mother, I wasn't entirely joking. Of course, I was never wholly at home in the gay lifestyle. Who is? Who could be? Plenty of people, Milo. And only leaned heavily into it in public because it drove liberals crazy to see a handsome, charismatic, intelligent gay man riotously celebrating conservative principles." I'm sorry, where is this handsome, charismatic, intelligent gay man? Because I'm just seeing a gay man. He wanted to say, "That's not to say I didn't throw myself enthusiastically into degeneracy of all kinds in my private life. I suppose I felt that's all I deserved. I'd love to say it was all an act and I've been straight this whole time, but even I don't have that kind of commitment to performance art." So he's clearly implying that he somehow played up his sexuality to annoy his parents and liberals and whatever, and I think he's still doing that now, but just swinging in the opposite direction. I think he's still playing on his sexuality to cause drama and cause a stir and just try and get a reaction out of people, which stupidly is what I'm giving him, but I think combating the negative consequences is more important than just not feeding his ego. So I don't think he was ever addicted to, as he says, his degeneracy. I think instead he is addicted to causing drama and trying to shock people and trying to get attention. I mean, how is any of this being said by a 36-year-old man and not some angsty teenager? I don't get it. He sounds like a child. He's acting like a child. It's like he's realised that it's no longer shocking or crazy to be gay and that no one really cares what he does in his private life. So in order to get attention, he's like, well, I'll shock them in another way. I'm ex-gay now, and making it all super public again. It's ridiculous. Because yeah, maybe once it was a little bit shocking to come out as gay, maybe when he was younger or whatever, but now it's not, and let's be honest, him being gay and having a husband that he lives with doesn't really matter to anyone other than him and the husband. No one cares about it that much. No one's shocked by it. No one's interested in it. It's not an issue. It's not even interesting. It's just, oh look, this adult has a partner like anyone else. That's it. And I don't think Milo can deal with not being interesting or cool or shocking or relevant or making people angry anymore. So he's going the other way and saying, oh, well, I'm ex-gay. Give me attention for that now, you know? However, this isn't just about Milo's ego, because once he's pushing these narratives that you can be ex-gay and that somehow it's harmful to be gay, and he's going with the whole anti-LGBTQ plus agenda here. Like, he brings everything into this. But once he's pushing this, it becomes other people's business, and it's not just this man looking for attention anymore. It's a man who sadly has a lot of influence, pushing a harmful narrative that is likely to hurt other people. And like I say, we'll get into the details of how that's going to be harmful at the end of this video. But yeah. The interview continues with, oh god, it's ridiculous. He makes all these comparisons between his sexuality and addiction, which is a little bizarre to me. Like, he says, I don't suppose I'll ever be brave enough to declare it a thing of the past. I treat it like an addiction. You never stop being an alcoholic. Which I don't really know what to think about, you know? Like, I'm not a psychologist and I'm not an expert in addiction or anything like that, so I don't want to make any definitive claims. But what I've always understood is that addiction is something that negatively impacts your life and causes dysfunction. So I don't see how accepting your own sexuality is going to do that. Maybe other people's intolerance towards it will, but that still doesn't make it an addiction. I don't know. Humans are innately sexual beings, and it's very, very natural to have sexual urges, unless of course you're asexual, in which case it's natural to not. It's just a different kind of natural for you. But by just embracing your sexuality and accepting it in a healthy way and being in a healthy relationship with a partner is not an addiction. It's not something that should cause dysfunction, at least not in the context that Milo's talking about it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to get bogged down in semantics, like, is it this, isn't it? Never mind, I just found it a bit weird. I think the issue is less about addiction and degeneracy, as Milo likes to keep saying, but I think the issue is more with his self-esteem and his issues when it comes to having this unhealthy need to fit in and be accepted by this very narrow group of people that he has in mind. And I think his self-hatred stems from this rather than his sexuality itself, because he wants to fit in with these conservative, Christian, narrow-minded, whatever group of people. And so when he does something that's a little bit out of that box, there's a lot of self-hatred and self-loathing there. And it does make me feel sorry for him. But at the same time, he's kind of embracing this self-loathing and saying, like, if I feel this way, everyone else has to as well. And yeah, that's not cool. I can't get behind that. Just, I don't know, don't take your own insecurities out on other people. Saying, I feel crap about myself and can't accept who I am, so I want everyone else to feel guilty about who they are too, is just not something I can ever get behind. You know? I have plenty of things I hate about myself, but I'm not gonna start telling other people that they're not allowed to get dental work just because I hate my own teeth. You know what I mean? Milo then went on to say in this interview, the guy I live with has been demoted to housemate, which hasn't been easy for either of us. It helps that I can still just about afford to keep him in, I never know how to pronounce brand names, like Givenchy, and a new Porsche every year. Could be worse for him, I guess. This kind of causes so much confusion and disgust at so many levels for me. Because, like, on the one hand, can we talk about what a superficial douchebag he is, where he seems to value giving people expensive gifts over having, like, an honest, meaningful relationship with them? That's, like, pro-douchebag territory and, grim. However, on the one hand, I do think it kind of shows that Milo is clearly aware that gay relationships are about more than just sex, because, you know, he's not just thrown this man out when he's not having sex with him anymore. He's still got some kind of relationship with him, even if he won't admit that it's sexual or romantic. I find it weird that he can't separate a romantic relationship and a sexual relationship. It seems to be all or nothing. I don't know. I'm not going to comment on what goes on in private. But that said, I said I'm not going to question then a question. That said, the fact that they're still living together and he hasn't just like kicked him out completely does make me wonder if this is just still a publicity stunt and we don't know what goes on behind the scenes. And that's the thing, isn't it? Because it doesn't really matter what's going on behind the scenes. They're allowed to do what they want and we shouldn't question that or worry about that or whatever. But then again, if you're making your private life public, but you are lying about it like he might be, and that lie is causing other people to do harmful things to other people, that's where it's a grey area, and it's like, well, that actually is something to worry about, isn't it? I don't know. The point is, we don't really know for sure what's going on or what anyone's motives are. All we can do is speculate. And I mean, there's way more to it than just this too. So in another interview, he said one of the most infuriating things I've ever heard, which was, I have enjoyed a lifelong affection for the absurd and the outrageous, so part of me gleefully anticipates the day I can seize the moral high ground, however briefly, to denounce others for failures of piety and sobriety. What is wrong with this man? Clearly, whatever he's doing isn't driven by a need to, like, actually do what he thinks is right. It's all about him feeding this ego and wanting to feel and act superior to others based on his warped, messed up ideas of what morals are. It's all very, very bizarre to me. And like I say, it's important to remember that everything he's saying isn't just his business anymore. What he does with his partner in private, that's his business. But when he's bringing this to the public and saying it all publicly, you know, when he's saying, look what I'm doing and you should do it too, that's when his business becomes other people's business. I'm saying business a lot. And in this case, what he's saying and doing is very, very harmful. He's spoken out saying, my professional priorities are shifting somewhat given my new spiritual preoccupations. Over the next decade, I would like to help rehabilitate what the media calls conversion therapy. In another article, they reported that Yiannopoulos states he is currently fundraising to launch a reparative therapy program, which, despite what Milo says, is literally a conversion therapy program. And he said about this has been the easiest thing to raise money for that I've ever done. There is an enormous demand for this among people who believe they've been led astray by, it sounds silly to call it this, but you know, the gay establishment. What is this gay establishment and can I meet them? The fact that all of this is actually working and he's getting money and support from this and that now even more funding is going into conversion therapy is terrible. It means that we're likely to see another resurgence of conversion therapy, people being pushed into it by their families, and it's terrifying and worrying and scary and very, very harmful. We've known conversion therapy doesn't work for a long time. We've known it's harmful for a long time. Back in 1994, research by the American Psychology Association warned that, and I quote, no scientific evidence exists to support the effectiveness of any of the conversion therapies that try to change sexual orientation. They also went on to warn that conversion therapy was dangerous because of the trauma it caused to people who went through it, but also to society as a whole because it reinforced the message that your sexual orientation was something you could change. One paper in particular wrote that the current wave of anti-gay political activity is founded on the mistaken assumptions that homosexuality is a chosen way of life and an abnormal one at that. It may be impossible to understand why so many people would believe that lesbians and gay men would deliberately choose a way of life that puts them at risk for discrimination and violence. That paper later went on to write, perpetrators of violence and anti-gay political groups justify their actions with the same devaluation of homosexuality that is used by conversion therapists. Now, if you want to read this paper and others I have referenced and will be referencing in this video in more detail, I've left all the news articles and journal articles and papers and everything I've read and used and referenced, and they're all listed down in the description below if you want to go check them out and read them for yourselves. Now, this paper I just quoted was by a guy whose name I'm not sure how to pronounce, Haldeman or Haldeman. I struggle with words. But basically, this guy, he has continued to research the subject over the years, and he's probably one of the leading researchers I found into looking at Does conversion therapy work? What are its outcomes? How does it affect people? How does it affect society as a whole? Where do these beliefs come from? He's done a lot of work on it. One of his papers from 2002 goes into some really interesting details about how there are lots and lots of issues with the arguments that people who claim conversion therapy works makes. And I won't go into them here, but he lists them all off. And then he goes on to mention how, while there's not currently enough evidence to make definitive claims, there has been some evidence to show that as a direct consequence of being forced into conversion therapy or choosing to go through conversion therapy, plenty of people have struggled with chronic depression, low self-esteem, difficulty sustaining relationships, and sexual dysfunction, to list a few small things. Meanwhile, another study from the same year by a guy named Schroeder found that even when it was claimed conversion therapy works, it was actually just because many respondents told us that they left conversion therapy pretending to their therapist to have changed their sexual orientation. So I think it was in this paper that said something like 30% of conversion therapy is supposed to be successful, but this paper proved that that's actually a complete overinflation, and that a lot of the people who said, yes, it works, I'm cured, were actually lying to just get out of the therapy and back into the real world and carry on living their lives. And all of this is just absolutely scratching the surface. Another news article pointed out, and again I quote, several other organisations, including the NHS England, the British Psychological Society, and the Royal College of Psychiatrists, published what they called a Memorandum of Understanding in 2014, describing conversion therapy as unethical and potentially harmful. So there's lots and lots of information, as you can see in all the sources listed down in the comments and more, that by promoting conversion therapy, you're not only hurting the individual, but you're hurting society as a whole. By pushing conversion therapy narratives and making it seem like sexuality is a choice that can and should be changed, you're making people less likely to accept people for who they are. You're making people less likely to accept themselves for who they are. You're pushing the conversation backwards and making it harder for people to just go about their daily lives and live and be who they are. This leads to kind of like more intolerance as a whole. This leads to more violence against all kinds of LGBT plus people. It leads to more mental health issues amongst LGBTQ plus people. It leads to more bullying. It leads to everything. It's bad. On the whole, it's bad. And there might be some outliers like Milo who claim that, oh, it's made me feel so much better because now I can pretend to have the moral high ground over people. But he's an outlier. On the whole, this doesn't change the fact that it's harmful directly to most of the people who go through it, and indirectly to the entire LGBTQ plus community as a whole. And this isn't just a case of, oh, it's his religion, let him do what he wants, let him say what he wants, like a lot of people like to tell me whenever I make any kind of atheist content anymore. People are always like, oh, leave them alone, it's their religion, they're allowed to believe what they want. And you are allowed to believe what you want. But when it changes from I believe this to I believe this about you, your life, I believe you should do this with your life, and something along those lines, when it comes to that point, and when it goes further, like in Milo's case here, where he's literally funding something which is detrimental to the entire LGBTQ plus community as a whole, that is something to critique. That is not something to stay silent about. That is something that will do harm if it's not combated, you know? And that's why it's not just a matter of, oh, stay silent and let religious people believe what they want. It's no, speak up so entire communities of people don't get hurt. It's as simple as that. Ugh. But I don't know. This is a big, complicated topic, and there's lots to it, and there's lots of issues, and there's lots of things wrong with things Milo has said. There's lots of things wrong with what he's done. But I don't have all the answers, and I don't have, all my thoughts together on every little thing. And so that's why I want to pass this conversation over onto you and ask you guys, what do you think of this? What do you think of Milo's views? What do you think of his fundraising? What do you think of conversion therapy in general? And yeah, God, sorry, I'm a little bit overwhelmed. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and thank you for watching today. I appreciate it a hell of a lot. And if you are new here and you like this video, please subscribe, because I make all kinds of book reviews and social commentary and all sorts of stuff, sometimes just some fun stuff and giggles as well, because why not? But yeah, it'd be great if you want to subscribe and stick around, and I look forward to seeing you again. I also have social media that I use. I'm probably most active over on Instagram and Twitch if you want to go and check them out. Twitch is fun. We do Lego building, we do game playing, we do wine and giggle streams. It's all fun. But for now, I'm going to shut up. Thank you for watching today. I appreciate you a lot, and I'll see you again very soon. Oh, I'm a little overstimulated today and I'm talking a lot. Blah. See you again soon. Bye.